talks about this in widowhood. No one shares with you that you are going through something other than just being sad, other than just missing him. And when I went to the doctor this past week, I was so confirmed by something, and I'm not sharing this that this is you, but typically with widows who are, hyper vigilant, or you are feeling jumpy, or you feel like your brain is scanning for danger, these are signs of PTSD. And what's interesting to me is that people will say to move on, or to, he's in a better place, or all these things that you think, okay, you don't get it. I watched the love of my life die in front of me. I saw a man who was in 2 branches of the military suffer like none other. And no one said, hey, you might have a little bit of PTSD. When I talked to this doctor just the other day, I shared with him, I was kind of feeling some things that I just wanted to get checked out. And he looked at me after I said everything, and he said, has anyone ever told you you have PTSD? And I said, well, I thought I did, but no. And he said, here's what happens, is that when people die, the regular, people, normal people who have never experienced any type of loss do not understand what PTSD is. And, to just make this point that I think a lot of us widows don't want to identify with a trauma because it's an overused word. Everywhere, everybody's got trauma, everybody's got something. But we did actually experience something traumatic. And I want to acknowledge that. We did experience something traumatic. We lost the love of our lives. And when you lose somebody, the way I lost somebody, my husband had melanoma cancer. In fact, when I was telling him my husband had melanoma cancer, he said, oh, that's the worst disease. And I was like, I know. And then I shared my story with him, and he just was so empathetic. I actually have never had a doctor spend so much time with me. He gave me some things that I will share in the notes, so that you can go and look, but there's a couple therapies that, might be helpful for someone who does have PTSD. And I really I want to normalize this instead of making it a big thing, that you might be like, oh, I don't want to acknowledge that. I just want you to just start getting curious. Am I feeling a little bit hypervigilant? Do I feel jumpy? Do I have a sense of dread? Am I worried about my family getting sick? Am I noticing that I want to isolate? These are all PTSD symptoms. So if those are things that you're thinking, I just want you to know, when you love somebody, and as deeply as I love my husband, and I know you loved your husband, then your brain doesn't just say, oh, okay, life goes on after they die. No, your brain says danger, loss, and this isn't safe anymore. It doesn't feel like life is safe anymore. And it can just stay there if we don't get curious about our thoughts, get curious about how we're feeling. Your brain is trying to protect you. My brain is trying to protect me. My brain was built to protect me. That's why if you were in a, jungle, and you're used to knowing like, oh, lions do exist. I don't know if they live in the jungle. Maybe that's tigers or leopards. I'm not sure. But they exist. And so you hear rustling in the leaves, and you already, your brain's on alert. So for us, we have experienced something, so now we're on alert. You start listening for things. You start jumping when the phone rings. You start checking on your kids more. You start struggling with sleep, which is kind of why I went there. You also feel a bit like something bad is going to happen, dread. And that is not being dramatic. That is not being dramatic. You have lost your spouse. Maybe you lost them by suicide. Maybe you lost them by cancer. Maybe you lost them by by a heart attack. All of that is trauma. All of that is a PTSD thing. Now, I will say this. I do believe that God does heal our brain, that we are meant to heal. Think about a body part that you broke. It takes time to heal, but you can't, without making sure that you get a cast on, or maybe you have to get surgery and you have doctors taking care of you, because it's a visible fracture. When you are grieving, it's not visible, and people see you getting up and people see you moving and people see that, oh, well, it looks like she's better. And you might be running in this, like, I'm doing. Typically the first year, that's what happens, where you're just doing. The second year, you kind of like fall flat on your face, maybe, because you are like, I'm exhausted. Your brain feels really foggy. You feel like you just feel off. Those are all normal. And that's not you being dramatic. That is you saying, your brain's telling you, I love someone deeply and it's difficult for me to survive this loss. When my doctor said that, you have PTSD, everything I've walked through with Lou, the cancer, the waiting, the praying, the loss, the aftermath of all the things and mistakes that I was making and things that I was walking through, nobody really sat with me. I had to do that on my own, and you are too. And that's why I started to do this. That's why I created the Gentle Grief Guide. If you haven't gotten that, it's the price of a bag of coffee. You should get that. It will help you to regulate your nervous system, because here's the thing. Your nervous system, just like mine, is running in overdrive. Imagine if you were sitting in a car. Imagine if you were sitting in a car and it wasn't going anywhere. It was in park, but it was on, and your foot was hitting the pedal and it just was revving at high speed. That is what our brain is doing. Your amygdala is running in overdrive. The prefrontal cortex, which is your decision making, it makes all the decisions for you. It's kind of taking a back seat. And so you're feeling a bit out of your body, like an out-of-body experience, almost like your skin is crawling in a sense, because you've lost your spouse. And I find this really interesting. When you love someone with your whole heart and you watch this trauma happen and you have survived, there's a lot of things that happen. One, there's guilt that happens. There's like, you wind up feeling like shame, like I should have done something. I should have done more. Maybe I should have sat with him more. And you get into this place where your brain is just thinking all these thoughts. What I love about the fact that I've created Grief in Me, which is a place, it's a free support group for you to come in and join. That is a beautiful place to be with other widows. But I also love the fact that you can just grab my Gentle Grief Guide, like I said earlier. You can also get into my course, which is A New Way to Stand. That is got some modules on there that are going to help you heal. I want to validate you because I feel like you need that validation. You're not broken. You're not broken. You're protecting yourself. And your brain is being loyal to you. And I love that God created us so that we can heal. But I also love the fact that God says, take captive your thoughts. If you're thinking these thoughts of like, I feel fearful and I don't know why, just take those captive. Don't judge it. Just go, okay, I'm noticing that. That is grief. That is trauma. And you could, I'm not going to say, because I'm not a doctor and I can't be like, well, you have PTSD, but in my opinion, you probably do. And I don't feel like that's an exaggeration or dramatic. What I love to tell my widows is that you can really be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Take the time that you need. Start noticing how you're feeling. Talk to a doctor if you're feeling like, I do feel like I might have PTSD. I lost the love of my life. And no one's acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging it. I'm acknowledging that for you. I'm starting a series. So this is series number 2. Actually, it's number 2. If you go back, you'll look at my first video about brain, your brain, and what your brain is doing with this grief. I know as a widow that so many people don't get this, but I do. And that's why I share what I'm sharing. So I want to ask you a couple questions. I want you to sit with them. Where in my body do I feel on guard the most? Where in my body do I feel on guard the most? What might that part be protecting? Now, I'm just going to share with you, I've been noticing that my throat has been feeling a little bit like tightness. And I thought, well, maybe it's my thyroid, of course. And he was like, no, I don't think it's your thyroid. And he mentioned this procedure. It's called FSM. It is frequency specific microcurrent. And it's for people who have PTSD. And I'll link it below so that you can look it up yourself. But he was like, I don't think that this is, I don't believe that this is, has anything to do with what, like your body. I think this has to do with PTSD. It's not a thyroid. Could be gut related, but he's like, your gut is probably telling you something. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, where do I feel safest during the day? Where do I feel safest during the day? That could be just in your room. Just notice that. Even for 30 seconds, where do I feel safe? Number three is this. What would gentle look like for me today instead of being strong? What would gentle look like for me instead of being strong? I want you to just take these down, write them down. Get curious. Use this as a time for you to sit down and jot these things down. Number four is this. If my nervous system is trying to love me, how can I love it back? Ooh, this is a good one. If my nervous system is trying to love me, how can I love it back? Okay. And then number five is this. What small action helps my body exhale? Walking? Is it prayer? Is it journaling? Is it sitting outside and having a cup of tea? Is it talking to somebody? Is it music? I just want you to start to notice that. What part of, what small action can you do today? These are all micro actions for you, just small actions. Widowhood changes you. It changes your heart. It changes everything. It changes your brain. And that doesn't mean that it's damaged. It means that you loved someone deeply and your brain loved deeply. Sometimes that just needs to feel safe again. And these are just little bits for you to take away so that you can find a place of peace within your body. So just to recap this, you are not broken. Your brain is not broken. You're grieving. I want you to find gentleness. Grab my Gentle Grief Guide. It's $19, but I believe that it's going to help you to see where I can exhale. It's going to talk about the things, just what I'm saying, but in a more structured way for you. And lastly, you are healing. You're not broken. By you just clicking on this, that means that you want to find some sort of healing. Getting Grief and Me, it's a free support group. You are more than welcome to be there, and I would love to see your face. P.S. You're beautiful.